You are the master of your fate. Let's begin. Are you quietly losing the most important battle of your life? We often talk about the great external struggles, the financial debts, the career setbacks, the broken relationships. But there is another kind of war, a silent one. It's a constant drain on your very essence, a series of small surrenders that you make without even realizing it. The battlefield isn't in the marketplace or the boardroom, it's inside you. It's the war for your soul. I know what it feels like to chase a victory that feels hollow, to build something that doesn't feel like your own. I've seen it time and time again in the men and women I've studied and mentored. This video isn't about grand gestures or epic moments of courage. It's about the quiet compromises, the invisible sacrifices you make every day that cost you your authentic self. I'm going to show you the unseen enemy, the cost of the small concessions you make, and how to finally break free from this pattern. Before we end, I'll give you a simple framework that will help you win back the most important thing you possess, your freedom. The moment a man begins to live, he is immediately placed on a battlefield. Most think this war is fought with rivals, with economic forces, or against the whims of fate. They are mistaken. The most dangerous enemy does not wear a uniform or carry a weapon. This enemy lives inside you. It is the part of you that wants to be liked more than it wants to be free. It is the part that values comfort over truth. I have seen men with grand visions and sharp minds, men who could outthink their competitors and outwork their peers, lose this silent war. They lost it not in one epic defeat, but through a series of small, invisible concessions. They said yes when their soul screamed no. They took a job they hated because it came with a title and a salary. They kept quiet in a meeting when their definite chief aim called on them to speak up. They smiled at a joke that went against their deepest values. Think of your life as a fortress, built of your purpose, your values, and your character. Every time you make a small compromise, every time you choose to avoid discomfort by surrendering a piece of yourself, you are opening a gate. It may seem insignificant. What's the harm in one small lie to avoid a difficult conversation? What's the danger in agreeing with a popular opinion you don't believe? What's the cost of one night spent doing something you despise, just to fit in? The danger is not in the single act. The danger is in the pattern. The enemy does not storm your walls. It simply walks through the open gates. One concession becomes two. Two become 10. Eventually, the very foundation of your fortress is so riddled with compromise that you no longer recognize the place you live. You look out from the watchtower and see a life you built for someone else, not for yourself. The quiet erosion of your purpose is far more insidious than a visible setback. A public failure is a teacher. It forces you to learn and rebuild, but the silent surrender is a slow poison. You wake up one day to find your ambition has been replaced by anxiety, your passion by a dull ache. You are successful perhaps by the world's standards, but inside, you know you are lost. Are you truly living your values, or simply following a script written by others? The answer to that question will tell you if you are a master of your life, or simply a servant in a fortress you no longer own. The silent compromises you make don't just drain your energy. They have a very real, very painful price tag. And the currency you pay with is your inner peace. Think of it like this. Every time you ignore your gut, every time you nod along to something you disagree with, you are creating a debt. You are borrowing against your integrity. The more you borrow, the heavier the weight becomes. The silent toll on your mental and emotional well-being manifests itself in 1,000 subtle ways you might not even notice. It's the anxiety that buzzes just below the surface. It's the inability to relax, even when you're supposed to be resting. It's the feeling of disconnection from your own life, as if you're watching someone else live it from a distance. This internal conflict is the most draining of all. It's the constant tug-of-war between the shoulds and the wants. You should stay in this dead-end job because it's secure. You should spend your time with these people because they're important. The world tells you what you should do, and your soul whispers what it wants. You're stuck in the middle, and this indecision is what truly drains the well. I have seen it countless times. A man who once had a fire in his eyes, a clear purpose that lit up his path, slowly loses that spark. The passion and purpose that once defined him begin to fade because he prioritized external validation. He chose the applause of the crowd over the quiet confidence of his own conviction. He sacrificed his deepest desires on the altar of public opinion. He gave up on what he wanted to pursue what he was told he was supposed to want. The cost of that compromise is a life that is functional on the outside, but hollow on the inside. You can have the title, the money, the house, and the car, but if they were built on a foundation of silent sacrifices, they will feel like a cage, not a home. The price you pay is a slow, quiet surrender of the very things that make you feel alive. I once knew a man who, by all accounts, should have been a great success. He was intelligent, kind, and had more natural talent in his little finger than most men have in their entire body. Yet his life was a series of half-finished projects and stalled ambitions. The reason? He was a master of indecision, and he was so busy trying to please everyone else that he had no energy left to please himself. He was like a ship with no rudder, drifting on a sea of other people's opinions. A friend would suggest a business venture, and he would pour all his time and money into it. A family member would voice a concern, and he would abandon the project in a heartbeat. He could not decide for himself what he truly wanted because he was conditioned to respond, not to act. He was a perfect example of what happens when you give away your power. He never realized that in his effort to avoid conflict with others, he was creating a much deeper, more painful conflict within himself. I watched as his dreams became ghosts, haunting him with the potential that was never realized. He had sacrificed his personal will for the temporary comfort of approval. He would always have an excuse, a well-reasoned explanation for why he was stalled, but it was all just noise. The truth was simple. He was paralyzed by the fear of being seen as wrong or selfish. He believed that to be loved, he had to be agreeable. He didn't realize that the only people who would love him for being agreeable were those who wanted something from him. His life was a constant cycle of starting and stopping, of chasing a new idea only to drop it the moment someone questioned him. His definite chief aim was not to build anything for himself, but to simply avoid disapproval. In the end, he had nothing left to build with. He was a man who had everything but lost it, all in the quiet indecision of 1,000 small surrenders. The final cost of his compromises was not just a stalled career, but a life without a soul to guide it. He became a follower of everyone and a leader of no one, least of all himself. The compromises you make are not random acts of weakness. They are driven by a hidden force, a part of you that you pushed into the shadows. I call it your shadow self. It's the part that you deny or suppress for the sake of acceptance. And the fear that holds its leash is simple, the fear of rejection. This fear is the root of so many of the silent sacrifices you make. You don't want to be seen as difficult, as too ambitious, or too different. You believe that if you just conform enough, if you just make yourself small enough, you will be safe. You will be accepted. But this belief is a lie. I have spoken with countless individuals who are afraid to be truly seen. They wear masks so thick that they've forgotten what their own face looks like. They have brilliant ideas, but keep them to themselves, afraid of being ridiculed. They have powerful convictions, but remain silent, afraid of being judged. They have desires for a life of freedom and purpose, but they pursue a life of comfort and conformity instead, all to avoid the possibility of a single moment of disapproval. This isn't just about people-pleasing. It's about a deeper, more profound form of self-betrayal. When conformity stifles authenticity, you are literally silencing the voice of your own potential. You are exchanging your truth for someone else's opinion. The tragedy is that the very people you are trying to impress are often just as lost as you are. They are also wearing their own masks, hiding their own shadow selves. They cannot give you what you seek because they do not have it themselves. I have to ask you, and be honest with your answer. Are you afraid to be truly seen? Are you so terrified of the possibility of being rejected that you have already rejected yourself? This is the core of the problem. This is where the battle for your soul is truly fought. It is a battle against the enemy within you, against the fear that whispers you are not enough. And until you unmask it, until you face it, you will never be free. A man's true strength is not measured by his ability to bend and conform, but by his unshakable refusal to do so. This is the great paradox of strength. To gain everything that is truly yours, you must first be willing to give up what pleases others. I learned this from men who built empires. Andrew Carnegie didn't become the master of steel by giving in to every opinion. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb by listening to every skeptic who told him it couldn't be done. They were men of unshakable purpose. When others said, "You can't do that," they heard, "I will show you that I can." They knew, in a way that most people never do, that their power came not from external approval, but from an inner conviction. I saw it firsthand. I remember Carnegie telling me about the endless stream of advice he received, people trying to talk him out of his most audacious plans. But he simply smiled. He knew that their caution was a reflection of their own fear, not a true measure of his potential. He would listen respectfully, and then he would do exactly what he knew he had to do. He refused to sacrifice his vision for the temporary comfort of being understood. This refusal is the ultimate act of self-love. It is a quiet declaration that your soul, your purpose, and your convictions are more valuable than anyone else's opinion. It is a powerful defiance of the silent enemy. When you stand firm on your own ground, you send a signal to the universe that you are a master, not a servant. You might be afraid that you will be alone, that you will lose friends or opportunities. But I can promise you this: you will only lose the people and the things that were never truly yours to begin with. The people who are meant to be in your life will be drawn to your authenticity. The opportunities that align with your purpose will find you. The truest form of connection is not built on compromise, it is built on mutual respect for each other's integrity. The journey to success, to true fulfillment, begins with the strength to be yourself, no matter the cost. The silent enemy is defeated not with a single grand battle, but with a series of small, intentional acts of courage. The most powerful weapon you have in this fight is your ability to say one word: no. A no is not just a refusal. It is a declaration of war. It is a line you draw in the sand, a boundary you set to protect your inner peace and your purpose. Every time you say no to an obligation that drains you, you are saying yes to your soul. Every time you refuse to attend a social function that feels false, you are saying yes to the kind of life that truly honors you. You have been conditioned to believe that saying no is selfish, that it will make you look weak or ungrateful. But the opposite is true. The man who can confidently and kindly say no is a man who knows his worth. He understands that his time and his energy are not infinite, and he treats them as precious resources, not as commodities to be handed out for free. I urge you to practice this today. Start with something small. Decline an invitation you don't want to accept. Politely refuse to take on an extra task at work that doesn't serve your purpose. Tell a friend you can't join them for dinner because you have other plans with yourself. These may seem like insignificant acts, but they are a form of defiance. They are a way of telling the world that your integrity is not for sale. Each small no is a step towards reclaiming your sovereignty. It is a way of rebuilding the walls of your fortress, one brick at a time. It is not about becoming a recluse or an island. It is about becoming the master of your own domain. And when you are the master, you are no longer a servant to the whims and expectations of others. You are free. The victory in this war for your soul is not a final, dramatic triumph. It is a slow, methodical process of building a life that honors your deepest truths. It is about creating a new blueprint for living, one that is not based on external pressure, but on internal alignment. I want you to think about every choice you make as a vote. Every time you choose to honor your intuition, you cast a vote for yourself. Every time you prioritize your own purpose over the expectations of others, you cast a vote for your freedom. And every vote, no matter how small, has a cumulative power. Over time, these votes will build a life that feels authentic and deeply your own. This isn't about perfection. You will still make mistakes. You will still feel the pull of old habits and fears. But now you will have a new guiding principle: to live a life aligned with your values, not just with external pressures. This is the path to sovereignty. This is the profound liberation of winning the war for your soul, one intentional choice at a time. The most successful people I have ever known were not without fear. They simply chose to act in spite of it. They were not without outside pressure. They simply chose to listen to their inner voice instead. They understood that their greatest wealth was not in their bank account, but in the integrity of their character and the clarity of their purpose. They built their lives on a foundation of self-respect, and that foundation was unshakable. Begin today. Don't wait for a grand moment of clarity or a major life event. The work begins in the quiet moments, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Decide what you want, be prepared to stand for it, and start building your new life, not for the approval of others, but for the profound liberation of your own soul. The victory is not in the destination, but in the journey of becoming who you were always meant to be. We have explored the silent war for your soul, the one that is fought and often lost in the quiet moments of your life. We have seen how small compromises accumulate into a crushing weight of anxiety and disconnection. We have unmasked the fear that drives these sacrifices and shown how they erode your purpose and passion. But most importantly, we have now laid out a new path. The greatest victory you can ever achieve is not over an external enemy, but over the quiet, conforming parts of yourself. The world will always pressure you to be something you're not. It will offer you temporary comfort in exchange for your permanent power. But you know better now. You know that your true strength is not in being agreeable, but in being authentic. Your purpose is not something you discover out in the world. It is something you uncover within yourself by stripping away everything that isn't true. This work is not easy. It will require courage. It will require you to stand alone at times. But I promise you, there is no greater feeling than the profound liberation that comes from winning this war. The peace of mind that awaits you is worth every difficult conversation, every polite refusal, every moment of temporary discomfort. You were born with a soul to guide you, not one to be sold off in pieces. It is time to reclaim it. Key takeaways: the silent war. The most dangerous battle is the one you fight internally, against the subtle pressures to conform. The cost of compromise. Every time you betray your values, you pay with your inner peace, passion, and purpose. The indecision of the drifter. A life without a clear, definite purpose is vulnerable to the whims and opinions of others, leading to stagnation. The power of no. Setting a boundary is not an act of selfishness, but a declaration of your sovereignty and a protection of your inner peace. Your assignments? 1. The inventory. Take 10 minutes today to reflect. Write down one area of your life where you feel a sense of misalignment. Where are you making a silent sacrifice? Is it in your career, a relationship, or a personal habit? 2. The why. For the area you identified, write down the reason for the compromise. What fear is at the root of it? The fear of rejection? The fear of not being good enough? Unmask the shadow. 3. The small victory. Choose one small, specific action you will take in the next 24 hours to defy that old pattern. This could be saying no to a request you don't want to fulfill, speaking your mind in a low-stakes situation, or simply spending 10 minutes on a hobby you've been neglecting. Do not announce your victory. Just do it. Remember, your success begins the moment you decide to act.